There once lived a young boy in a quiet little town. One summer, he came to visit his grandfather during his holidays. He loved being there. Every day, he played with his grandfather, laughed, and spent time listening to his stories. It became a special part of his childhood, those days spent with Grandpa. One afternoon, while they sat under a tree, enjoying the warm breeze, the boy turned to his grandfather and said, "Grandpa, when I grow up, I want to become a successful man. Can you tell me some ways to be successful?" The grandfather smiled softly. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he gently nodded and said, "Come with me." He held the boy's hand and walked with him to a nearby nursery. There, among the green rows of plants, he bought two small plants. Both were healthy, fresh, almost identical. They came back home together. Then the grandfather carefully took one of the plants and planted it in a pot. He brought it inside the house and placed it by the window, where it would get light, but not too much. No strong wind, no rain, no storms, just comfort. The second plant, he took it outside, and he planted it in the garden, in open soil. Here the plant would face the full force of nature, sunlight, storms, rain, and even animals. Then he turned to the boy and asked, "What do you think? Which of these two plants will grow better in the future?" The boy thought for a moment. He looked from the indoor plant to the one outside. Then he replied, "The one inside the house will grow better. It's safe from danger, but the one outside, it's at risk. Sunlight might burn it, rain might drown it, storms, animals, anything could happen." The grandfather smiled and said, "Let's see what happens in the future." Time passed. 4 years went by, and the boy returned to visit his grandfather again. He had grown taller. His voice had changed, but he still remembered the lesson he never received. As soon as he saw his grandfather, he said, "Grandpa, last time I asked you how to be successful in life, but you didn't tell me anything. This time, you have to." The grandfather smiled warmly and said, "Yes, of course. But before I tell you, let me show you something." He led the boy to the place inside the house, where they had planted the first small plant in the pot. They looked at it. It had grown, but only a little. The plant was still small. Its stem was thin. It looked weak, like it hadn't changed much over the years. It hadn't faced any storm, but it hadn't grown much either. Then the grandfather took the boy outside, to where they had planted the second plant in the garden. The boy stood still. His eyes widened. There in the garden stood a large, strong tree. Its branches spread wide. Its leaves were thick and full. Birds were singing in its shade. Passers-by were stopping to rest beneath its cool shadow. Then the grandfather asked, "Tell me, which plant grew more? Which one is more successful, and why?" The boy looked at the tree, then at his grandfather. "The one we planted outside grew more, Grandpa." "But how is that possible? That plant had to face so many dangers. Still it grew so big." The grandfather smiled and said, "Yes, my child. That plant, the one outside, had to face many things. Storms, harsh sunlight, heavy rains, animals. But it also had the freedom to spread its roots deep into the ground. It could grow however it wanted. And because it faced struggles, its roots became stronger. Every storm made it hold the earth tighter. Every drop of rain nourished it, and the sunshine made it reach higher. Now it's so strong, even a big storm can't harm it anymore." He paused, then pointed to the plant inside. "But look at the one we kept in the house. It was safe. It didn't face any wind, any rain, or heat. But because it didn't struggle, it didn't grow, it remained small." Then the grandfather looked the boy in the eye and said, "My son, always remember this. Unless you struggle in life, unless you go through hardships, you will never grow strong. You will not be able to achieve real success. If you always choose comfort, if you always avoid pain, you'll never discover your full potential. But if you're ready to face difficulty, to step out of comfort, to fight through storms, then no goal is impossible." Don't look at problems as hurdles. See them as stepping stones, each one taking you higher. The boy stood silently. He looked up at the tall tree again. The sun glimmered through its leaves. His grandfather's words echoed inside his heart. Obstacles, the ones we think are enemies in life, are the very things that make us stronger. They are what make us successful. If we stop for a moment and reflect, we'll realize that in our own lives, we often have to face challenges and difficulties. And many times, we feel discouraged, we feel defeated, we lose the courage to move forward. But the story of the two plants teaches us something powerful. Never be intimidated by challenges. Instead, see them as chances to learn, to grow, to become more. The plant that was planted outside, it faced natural calamity, but it also had the freedom to spread its roots, to stretch, to rise. And that's what helped it transform into a strong, giant tree. On the other hand, the plant kept inside was protected, but it remained small and weak. What do we learn from this? The more difficulties and challenges we face in life, the more doors to success will open for us. It teaches us something vital. We should not be afraid to take risks. We should not fear stepping outside our comfort zone. When we face challenges, we gain the opportunity to grow, to gain experience, to build strength. We develop the resilience and the determination that are essential for true success. Of course, overcoming all challenges isn't easy. There will be times when we feel defeated, moments when we feel discouraged, but it's important to remember, these are only temporary setbacks. If we learn from them, if we keep moving forward, we will eventually overcome anything that stands in our way. So the next time you face a challenge, the next time life feels too hard, don't give up. Use that moment. Let it teach you. Let it strengthen you. Because the challenge you face today might be the very reason you become successful tomorrow.